So, hello, Krishna.
Hello.
So, thank you
Hello.
for joining. Oh, let me just check if my buds are really working. No, it's not, so I cannot really hear you yet. I should be able to hear you right now. Is that true?
Uh, yeah,
Yeah,
so
great. I can hear you. This is good. So, we are waiting for a couple of more people, so we should be around 30. We have some 30 invitees, guests. So, getting ready here. So, Krishna, how are you doing? Where are you joining us from?
I'm from joining from Bangalore now. India,
Bangalore.
yeah, India, Bangalore.
Okay, great. Yeah, I've been in Bangalore a couple of times. Great place.
Yeah.
Crazy, but great. Are you in IT?
Yeah, yes, in it.
Okay. So, and what's your favorite poison then? Is it development? Is it management? What are you doing?
Yeah, of course, I go from business and with
Okay,
product and
business.
coding.
All right, great, great, great. And then we have another one. We have Shashank. Shashank, is that correct?
Yes, yes. Hey, hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you so much for adding
All
me.
right. Yeah, and so where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from Noida, next to
Of-
Delhi.
Uh, okay,
Noida.
okay, okay. I don't know that place.
Okay. So you
All right.
you, you
So
must have visited New Delhi as well as Gurgaon.
yes. Uh, no, no. The last one you said, no, not that one. So I've
Okay.
been to a couple of places. Trivandrum. I've been in Bangalore a lot of times. Um, it's a couple of years already, but I've traveled a lot there. So doing code training and doing this was before the pandemic, so we were still training people uh, at at on the premises, really, right, at the companies and in India. So there was a lot of that stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So and Shashank, what's your field of work?
So I am working as a product owner for public health. So where we are
Oh,
building products
great,
for the society and it's for the primary healthcare services. We are trying to improve from the grassroots level. So,
great,
so it's
great,
a it's yeah. So I'm working for a platform. It's interoperable and we are building multiple products on the top of that.
great. Sounds interesting. Sounds interesting. Okay, so we have a couple of more people. We have Rajesh, we have Mani, we have Kevin, we have Simply Access, or Simply Access, right? Okay, so shall we wait a little bit more before we start? We can
Yeah,
still talk a little bit. Yeah, let's
yeah,
chat
I
a little
I
bit
believe
more.
so.
So let's see, Rajesh, are you also are you a product owner? Are you a manager? Tell us a little bit. I'm curious.
Yes. I'm sorry, I'll switch on my video.
Yeah, oh great, great.
I work for Cognizant. I'm a project manager. We take care of process excellence. We support one of our clients on Google Cloud transformations.
Great, great. Okay, so you are at the right place here. So,
I'm
so
based in
I'm
India,
going.
Bangalore.
Yeah, okay. Also in Bangalore. Great, great. Right. So, guys, let's get. Maybe I can do the following, and let's. I'm going to start with the boring stuff. I'm going to present myself a little bit, right? So my my name is Axel Berle, and so I'm located here in Brazil. So I am a CST, a certified Scrum trainer, and I'm training a lot of training courses at Simply Access. Great guys, great training, great company to work with. So do a lot of training together with them and my great partners. So, but I'm also located here. I'm doing also a lot of training courses here in Brazil. And so I personally I'm working now as a product owner for a couple of years already in our startup here in Brazil. So we are creating our own products. So So we are eating our own dog food. So whatever we teach is this what we are actually applying. And so I can also share my personal experience and my pain points, what I see in the real world, right? So very often in training courses, people say, yeah, but in the real world, blah, blah. I say, wait. So I'm teaching from the real world. I'm not teaching anything. I'm not using myself. All right. So I say, yeah, okay. Your real world is probably different from my real world. So let's agree on that. Okay. So we are developing products for lawyers companies, and so we are in a startup, a couple of years working on that, and so we are working in Scrum teams, and it's a great thing. My background though is actually IT, right? So I've been working as a freelancer like more than 20 years all over the world. I've been working in a lot of in Germany, then also in Brazil a lot, and yeah, so I've been actually also in Kuwait, some strange, very interesting, very exotic places. I will not say strange, but exotic, very different. So I've been also a lot in India. I've worked in India in a Scrum as a developer, and then I moved into a Scrum Master role. So I've been working a lot actually in Bangalore. It was a really interesting project, and so this was a project from Germany, and we had like 4 or 5 outsourced Scrum teams in India. So really interesting. So my background, so I've been working actually in all 3 roles of Scrum. And this gives me a certain perspective on these things. So I want to talk today. I want to talk about the role of the Scrum Master specifically, and about the role of and focusing on facilitation and not being a manager. So there's a lot of confusion in uh, in the corporate world actually about what is really a scrum master. Is that kind of a project manager? What are the differences, etc., etc.? And there's still up to this day a lot of confusion about that. So the topic is facilitation, not managing. Okay. So facilitation is also something that is kind of new to many organizations. And what it really means, I want to talk about, I want not to talk so much about how you facilitate, but the why. So why do we need something like facilitation? And what does that have to do with project management, managers, and Scrum Masters? This is actually the core question, right? So to understand this role. Okay, so I'm going to explain this the following way. So first of all, so we're going to focus maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes around the why we need this. And then I'm going to talk a bit how you do that, right? So first the why and then the how, okay? And I like to teach in a visual way. So I'm going to draw a little bit actually. So can you see this here? Can you see on my screen?
Yeah, little it's black now. Maybe
It
it's
takes
coming.
sometimes
Oh yeah,
some
yeah, it's clear.
yeah, it has a certain lag. Okay, so it takes some time. All right. Okay, so let's start first of all clarifying what is it that the project manager does essentially, okay, the essence. And then we can compare this to a Scrum Master. So first of all, let's say this is us. This is us proud project managers, right? So we as project managers, we are accountable, of course, to uh, maybe our superiors. Maybe we have this steering committee, right? So we are accountable to some people, of course. The thing is, it's usually one single person, us as a project manager managing something. And what is the focus of our work? We have a plan, right? So there is no project manager in a project without a plan. So it's very much plan-based, right? So as project manager, we spend quite some time preparing that plan, right? And then what we do, well, we execute the plan. How do we do that? Of course, we have our collaborators, right? And so basically, according to our plan, we are uh, organizing on a timeline who is going to do what, right? So according to our plan, then we assign work, right? So you do that, after that you do that, etc., etc. And so we are, in that sense, orchestrating the sequence of work according to our plan. In the end, what do we want to have? Of course, we want to have that delivery of some product, some service that we have been working. And success. What is success, guys? What do you think is success for as a project manager with a plan? What's the success actually? Could you define that?
Yeah, probably delivering a product on time with value
Okay,
to the
so
customer.
yeah, and I would like, right. So maybe we could say that the focus is really the delivery, right? So delivery on time, on budget, and hopefully with value, right? So this is the focus, okay? The thing is that this kind of work we're talking about is a specific kind of work that we like to define as complicated work, right? So, and I like to teach this with a certain tool, which is this is a thinking tool from a guy called Stacy, right? And Stacy classifies work in different types of works, right? So we have here that domain here. Let me change the color a little bit. So this is the second layer. This is what we define as complicated. Right, so complicated work is the kind of work where you can actually plan, right? This is why we have a plan for that. And so you can do, so you know exactly, you know quite well how the solution looks like, etc., etc. This is the kind of work where we have typically from the engineering, right? So where we know like building houses, building roads, and this approach of management has been a huge success, right? So we have this one person accountable, our project manager here. So what happens? What are the consequences of that kind of work? The thing is, the focus for this work is actually, when you look at the people working together here, this is the work more focusing on cooperation, right? And so as a project manager, we are trained to solving problems, right? We are trained to creating plans and then move forward here. So focus being cooperation, we have some drawbacks, right? One of the criticized drawbacks is sometimes a lack of communication and also a lack of innovation, right? So because the innovation is already present in the plan, it's more static approach. Okay, so this is so as a project manager, what do we do? So we plan, we control, we adjust things, etc., according to our plan. So we have our time budget, time and our budget, etc. Guys, would you all agree with that? Right? Kind of we're on the same page here. Right, great. So the thing is, over time, the focus of the work shifted, right? And the focus shifted to a new, different domain of work. And this is the work in a domain here that is called complex. So what makes things complex? Complex basically means that the kind of problems we're talking about, this is the complex domain. The kind of problems we are dealing with is the kind of problems which are ill-defined. So this is where we have problems where we don't really have the best solution at hand. We can only say, yeah, if we do this, this would be probably better, or we could do this, it would be probably worse. But we don't really know the best solution yet. Okay, so these are problems which are extremely difficult to plan. complex. So this is the complexity problem, right? So what happened with our world is it became more connected, right? So we're talking about this became more apparent like maybe the last 30, 40 years, right? More and more innovation, more and more new technologies like connectivity, right? The internet and millions, billions of cell phones, software, right? Software becoming more and more present in our products. Okay, so the type of work shifted to more to the complex work. Complexity is a strange beast, right? So how can you see that something is actually complex? So I'm sure that we have different product owners here present, right? So I am sure you have already experienced the situation that you think that you have understood your customer. You started building something and then you show it to them. And then they say like, yeah, you implemented exactly what I told you to implement, but it's not really what I need. Have you ever seen that? I mean, I'm totally sure, right? That, yeah, we did exactly like you asked. And people, maybe they say yes, and then they try it out and then say, yeah, but it's not really. So this is a domain where you will have surprises, and planning more and more only gets you so far. Okay, if you look at then, what are the the things that make this actually not really efficient? So when we look at the organization of in this way, right? The corporation focused organization, we will see that they are focused on efficiency, right? And we have here we are applying for that kind of work, we are applying the economies of scale, right? So we can organize this in types of work. We have things like specialists, and we see things like departments, and you will see that generally the communication is based on, I will not say paper, right? But it's written, it's not verbal, it's not people focused, right? One of the problems of this, if you start applying this approach in the complex, you will see things like long time to market takes too long. Okay, so this we had things like the software crisis in the 60s, where we started to see that this approach is reaching its limits. So what can we do? Actually, when we look at complexity, right? How can we best solve ill-defined problems? So the role typically of a project manager is to solve problems, right? So we basically say, oh, we have a problem. We as project managers, we like to jump right to solutions. Oh, we can do this. And you can actually see that when you're working with project managers, good project managers like that, they are confronted with a problem and they're already thinking about, okay, this is how we're going to solve it. I don't know how this happens with you, but when I was working as a project manager, I had this urge to fix things right away. Okay. So that's typically also the stance, like the mental stance of a project manager. Fix, solve problems, be efficient. Time is important. Okay. So, and then we have the consequences is then that very often we build products that the client doesn't actually want anymore. So, question to you guys. If you are a project manager then and you have a problem, but the problem is not clear, the problem is surprising you, the problem is ill-defined, what is the best approach now? Any idea? How would you solve it? Any idea?
Wouldn't you want to first understand the problem? Try and
Yes, of
investigate
course.
more?
Try to understand the problem. Exactly. Right. So the thing is then, as a project manager, we should not jump to solutions. And this is actually one of the most important stances of a Scrum Master now, right? And the idea of a Scrum Master is to not solve the problem. Tell me, guys, who is actually best positioned to understand and solve a problem? Is it really you, the project manager?
Product manager or product owner?
So the thing is that, yeah, but the thing is, if when you look at a complex problem, you cannot solve a complex problem with uh, with a complicated approach. Okay, so a complex problem is basically a problem which is too complicated for one single person to solve. So the approach that we want to make with something like Scrum is to let the team self-managed in a self-managed way try to solve it. So it's not one person solving it, shifting it to the whole team. So let me show you how that looks like, let's say. So the idea is, if you look at this here, right? One of the problems is that people are caught in their specialty, right? So let's say we have these different stages. If you look at the waterfall approach, right? People work in their different departments, in their stages, okay? And they are not really collaborating. So this is approach which is focusing on cooperation, just working together, but not it just working focusing more on efficiency and being directed. Cooperating, yes, we are working in a work group, but we are not really a team. So the idea is then, let's take these guys out of their roles, out of their very limited roles, right? And create a team out of them, right? So we get these guys together, right? Instead of having one person, right, do the thinking, this is what we as project managers do. We think, you do, right? But if the problem is just too complex, we have to think all together. That's the basic idea of an approach like Scrum, right? We want to really leverage the whole team. You don't want to have one brain. We want to have actually all the brains. So that's actually the process then. So we have here, right? Now we have a product owner. So that's this is the accountability, the responsibility of a Scrum team to make sure that the right product is being built. And then we have all the other collaborators, right? They collectively, we call them the developers, right? So they make then the technical decisions. On the one hand, we have the product owner making product decisions. On the other hand, we have the people making the technical decisions. So we want to actually have here one collective brain instead of having only one brain. So the idea is then, so the antidote, right, to the problem of complexity is that we want to use self-management. So with self-management, we want to allow people to maximize the way that they will collaborate now. So it's about collaboration. It's one approach to maximize collaboration, and that allows you to also maximize creativity. Creativity, we're talking about innovation, right? And communication. So these are really the core points we want to maximize. Okay. So here we have a bunch of people. We have a product owner. We have all these developers. When we talk about developers, we're not really saying, oh, only programmers. This is very generic. So we're talking about people doing, oh, I'm doing the testing. You do front end, you do back end. Then we need some DevOps stuff. We need a design. All these people really collaborating on the solution. And we have the product owner providing direction on where to go as a product. So if you look at this, you can put this, this model of complexity on top of this. So we have the complexity understanding what to build. We have the leadership here of the product owner and how to build things. Here we have the collective leadership of the developers. All right, so now let's go back to that question, guys. If we want to get most out of the team in terms of collaboration, in terms of creativity, of communication, right? And the problem that we're talking about is ill-defined. So it's not an easy problem. And if you now throw all these people together in a team, do you see a problem here? So we don't imagine now, you don't have a project manager anymore, right? Scrum says we don't have hierarchies. We don't have formal hierarchies in that team. So the product owner is not the boss of the developers. So the product owner is not entitled to say, you do that because I say so, right? The product owner will tell you what is the most important thing to focus on. As a product, we're going that direction. So that's really the product owner's accountability. So the developers, they decide, oh, we're going to use this, we're going to use this design pattern, we're going to use that architecture, that design stuff, etc. That's their field. That's where they lead. Imagine now you have a bunch of people like that and no formal hierarchy. Can you see the challenge of that? Krishna, what do you think? Isn't that a little bit challenging?
Yeah, of course. With no formal authority, it's quite difficult to either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So,
It's,
I mean, I can imagine that. Imagine, think about your team, maybe, right? Maybe you're working in a highly structured team, right? Imagine getting all these people and say, guys, now nobody's boss here, and you all just figure it out. So I can imagine, and I've seen that, right? A lot of chaos, right? Chaos, isn't that? So the thing is, and I'm going to slowly introduce the role of the Scrum Master now. So Scrum, on the one hand, will give you a certain structure, right? So what does Scrum as a framework gives you structure? Scrum gives us, let's say, the minimal possible structure. And Scrum just says, we have 3 accountabilities. So we have the product owner, you're focusing on what? You are going to prioritize, you are going to drive discovery, you're going to prioritize the needs, etc. Right? So that's one accountability that Scrum gives. So it is some structure, but it's not a hierarchy. On the other hand, we have the developers, and they have to figure it out, working together in that collective group of developers, together with the product owner, how to do things. But this is basically the very basic structure that Scrum provides. But there is one element here to help with the chaos. So who is that, guys? Here we have the Scrum Master, right? But you see, the Scrum Master's objective is very different from a project manager. As a Scrum Master, our role is not the product. It's not the delivery of the product. It's not the direction of the product. It's the team. Right? And that's something where people struggle a lot with, to understand this role of the Scrum Master, right? So if you look at this a little bit, let's talk about the Scrum Master's actual accountability, its actual mission. It's to take all these guys on a mission, right? On a journey. So here we have all the guys, right? In that creative chaos of a team, if you say, right? So here we have the developers, here we have the product owner. So the role now, the mission of the Scrum Master. So that's the Scrum Master. So the mission is to actually create the brain and make this brain become great, right? On that journey to become right? And the destination of that journey is to have a great team. That's like the most important understanding of the Scrum Master. As a Scrum Master, you are not a new version of a project manager. You know, you are not the new version of, oh, I'm going to lead these things. It's very much more a servant leadership perspective that you have, right? And and this is where people struggle a lot with it. Yeah, but isn't this about the product? No, as Scrum Masters, it's not our role, right? So who is really accountable for the product value and prioritization? That's the product owner. So don't confuse these two roles, please. All right. Okay, so you might ask yourself now, okay, so the mission is to help these guys become a collaborative team. Right. My question is then, guys, what are the tools that we as Scrum Masters have? Right? I like to make a joke, right? So we don't have our tool anymore. You know, the favorite tool, maybe? I'm jokingly, guys, please. We don't have the whip anymore. Right? You could say, like, oh, the whip has been taken away. So how can we actually do this? And the tools that we as Scrum Masters have, right? We're talking the tool of anyone would like to uh, make a suggestion. What are the tools that we have as Scrum Masters? I'm not talking Jira. I'm not talking Jira here, right? Again, please, Krishna.
Scrum call.
So yeah, one of the tools, if I understand you correctly, it's about Scrum. It's about teaching Scrum, right? Teaching Scrum. We are the master. Is that what you're meaning, Krishna? So we are masters of Scrum. So we need to understand Scrum. We need to able to teach this. A good Scrum Master is a great teacher, right? So teaching is like, oh, what are the rules? What's the responsibility of the product owner, etc., etc., right? And that actually Scrum as a framework doesn't have so many rules, but a certain set of important rules, right? And we teach all that in the Scrum Master class, right? So let's have another look now at the other
Other
responsibilities.
other could be
Yes,
like as a facilitation, because the facilitation
yeah,
and how they are going to teach. It's not only the teaching, it is facilitating them, enabling them so that they can also learn and share with the other team members.
absolutely. You hit the nail on its head. So the other very important, this is really the topic that we're going to talk a bit more, right? Facilitation. So we're going to define this in a second, right? So because this is really, that's an interesting one. Because facilitation is, let's say, kind of new. This is something that we as project managers, I mean, it's a good thing. Even all these things that I'm talking about, it's good even for a project manager, right? So if you understand what a Scrum Master does, and even if you're not working as a Scrum Master, these tools are very valuable. This because it's all about teamwork. And of course, we project managers, even if we don't work in a Scrum setup, it's always about people. And if we know these tricks, these skills, it will make you even more valuable as a project manager, right? So facilitation, we're going to define this shortly. There is more. Another, let's say, it maybe a bit more advanced technique is coaching, right? So coaching is also something which is highly valuable. It's all about people. It's all about helping people to work together, right? Coaching. So that's really great. And we have other things like mentoring. But we are also talking about advising, right? And we are also talking about leading. So these are all different skills, but the
What
most
about
important one,
collaborating?
yeah, so we're going to show, yeah, so collaboration, we're going to talk in the context of facilitation, we're going to talk about collaboration more, right? So these are the top most important ones, really, right? And then we have others also, right? So it's not limited to that, right? But let's start then talking about facilitation a bit more. So this is actually our main topic here, right? So the thing is, let's go back to my question, right? So if you have a complicated problem, not complicated, if you have a complex problem, right? Think about team now. You are in your team. So let me get some more space here. So here we are, right? Imagine you in your team. And it doesn't have to be a Scrum team, okay? But let's imagine. So here you are, maybe you are here product owner, proud product owner. You have your developers, everybody here, right? And you have a problem, okay? I mean, this is our job. Working in with products, building stuff, it's normal to have problems, right? The thing is, in the complex world, we have more problems and we have more complex problems. So the kind of problem that we have, the solution is not obvious, right? So let's say this is our problem, right? And now you are a Scrum Master, right? So you are here maybe, right? As a Scrum Master. So, and here's the team. So let me ask you what to do if you imagine, so usually as a project manager, you say, oh, you have a problem, tell me the problem, I'm going to analyze it and I'm going to decide. But now we have an ill-defined problem. It's not clear what the solution is. What would be your approach now?
Hi.
Brainstorming with the team.
Oh, again, wait, there was Janelle.
Yes.
I'm not sure who was the.
It
Janelle,
was,
please tell us.
sure, sure. So, if things are unclear, maybe we start asking some clarifying questions, try to get a little deeper to what's the actual problem. Um, and sometimes, different people will have, no, this is the problem. No, this is the problem. It's important to have somebody in the group that's kind of allowing people to share their perspective.
Yeah, exactly. So, and this brings me totally to what we call facilitation. You are actually describing facilitation here, right? So, the basic principle, the idea is, right? A single person doesn't know everything. So when the problem is complex, we need to look at it from as many perspectives as possible, right? So metaphorically speaking, as Scrum Master, as a facilitator, what do we want to do? So we want to, instead of having one person, right? Instead of having a single person thinking about this, right? Maybe a clever product owner, instead of having a single person, let's think about this as a team now, right? So that means like I want to understand what's your take on it, what's your take on it, what's your take on it, what's yours. So the more people think about the problem together, the more ideas do we get, the more insights do we get, and very probably the better the solutions we get. The thing is that this kind of problem, it's not an obvious problem where we can say that's the best solution. So the complex work, right? And this is not, we're talking about complex versus complicated. In a complicated work situation, like building a house, you have an architect, etc., you can call a specialist, right? You can say, oh, you've been working with that a lot of time, you have a lot of experience. Please tell me what the right approach is. So the specialist will say, that's the approach. But you need experience, right? So this is a typical, you call on specialists. Okay. But the kind of problem that we are talking here, right? Complex problems, these are problems that have never been solved in the exact same way. So that means uh, we need to actually experiment. We have to try things out, right? And so we want to leverage all the different brains in a team like that. So and how you do that? Now the question goes, we're approaching now the question, how do you do that? right? And that's really what we do as a Scrum Master. Facilitation, and here comes a definition, right? Facilitation is how you help a team solve a problem collaboratively. How do you help a team work better together to solve a problem better, right? And this is why also the facilitator is also defined often as a collaboration leader. So you are leading the collaboration. Collaboration is different from cooperation, right? Cooperation is when many people work side by side, but not really on a shared problem. Collaboration is when we make people work on a shared goal, shared problem, right? So that we co-create solutions. And this is really a different approach, right? You need to learn new tricks for that. So collaboration is really, it opened a total new field of techniques and approaches and what's the word for that? Dynamics, etc. Right? So we have to shift, and this is what this is the focus of self-managed teams, where if you compare the focus of the attention of a project manager versus a Scrum Master, a project manager would be focusing on the individual. You look at this one, okay. Let's say there is a problem. A project manager will say, let's have a look at this guy, let me fix that guy. And then you go to the next, oh, we have a problem here, let's fix that one. So we tend to look and optimize locally, right? But the focus will shift here because now we're looking at the team level, right? So we want to also to focus the solution making on team level. It's all about, right, helping a team think better together, solve problems better, right? Let's talk about then the techniques. This sounds very, very high level, etc. Very nice. But how do we do that in practical terms? So let me give you some quick idea, right? So we cannot, of course, facilitation. There are lots of books on that topic, and I mean the best way to learn this, I mean, is of course in our Scrum Master training course we teach the basics, we teach the approach, but then again, after that, of course, you have to practice this, right? And there's a lot of literature on that. So let me give you a quick overview. And this is a very fascinating topic, by the way, right? So as a Scrum Master, as a collaboration leader, you want to lead your team through the thinking process. So there is a structure for that. It's a process, right? Collaboration, like a retrospective. This is a typical moment where we apply facilitation. Retrospective is the moment, right? The meeting in a Scrum team at the end of the cycle, of working cycle, where you want to understand and analyze and improve something. It can be a team problem, it can be any kind of problem, right? So let me show you how the process is. But before that, let's hear Shashank, please. What's your idea?
No, I just wanted to ask one question here.
Yes, please.
Is facilitation is similar to the brainstorming session, what we really do for once we have to find out an idea?
Yeah, so it's one of the practices that we do for facilitation. So facilitation, you will see. Let me walk through the idea and you will see
Okay.
where it fits. Okay. So imagine now a retrospective. In a retrospective, what do? We have a certain time limit. We have 1.5 hours, something like that, maybe 2 hours, maybe 1 hour. It's very limited time, right? All the events in Scrum are time boxed to make it as efficient as possible. So we want to, as Scrum Masters, as a facilitator, what do we do? First of all, we talk about the problem we want to solve, right? So we start with the problem. Guys, what's the problem we need to solve? It can be, for example, imagine you had this very terrible review. Imagine like all things went wrong, lots of bugs. Maybe the stakeholders didn't like it or it was terrible, right? It can happen. Happens all the time, right? So as a Scrum Master, you might want to make this the topic of the retrospective. You might ask, guys, how can we improve our work, right? What can we do to not repeat the same terrible review, right? So you start with the question, okay? And then comes the idea, guys, how can we make sure that we get all the ideas? And now we have Shashank. What was your idea? Right? You had an idea here, right?
Hmm.
The brainstorming thing.
Yes.
Remember? So imagine now, if I imagine you, Shashank, in your team, and we have this big question that we're trying to fix, right? How can we improve our reviews? So tell me, if that's the big question, and we ask the team, how can you make sure that we get all the perspectives of all the team members? And here's Shashank's idea, brainstorming, right? So the thing is then, we ask everybody, write down your ideas, right? So we start first by we start by exploring the problem. So we always start in problem space, right? And as a Scrum Master, as a facilitator, we lead the team through this process. So we start by we want to understand what are the problems. So we ask to brainstorm, as Shashank suggested. So we ask, please, everybody, write down your idea on a sticky. And everybody will be writing down all the ideas, right? And write them on stickies. So by doing that, what are we doing actually? We are asking to look at the problem from all perspectives. That's what we're doing here, brainstorming. And guys, why is brainstorming on stickies a good idea? What do you think? Why is that something that we as a facilitator use this as a tool so much? Any ideas? Why do we do that?
It's more engaging. Ideas comes.
Yes, it's more engaging, absolutely. And why is it more engaging? Because, guys, maybe imagine you have this meeting and you just let people talk. What's going to happen? If people just start talking, what's going to happen?
Chaos.
Chaos! Exactly. And to make things worse, sometimes there's just silence. So I like chaos, right? It's a good thing, but you need to manage the chaos, right? But the problem is usually another thing, maybe you have noticed this situation. If people talk in a meeting, isn't it so that's always the same people talking? It's always the one guy who loves to talk, he will talk all the time. Or the one lady that she really loves talking and she's talking. She always starts talking. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing per se. Maybe they have good ideas, but sometimes they just like to talk. And then we have the guys, especially in IT, that happens. You know, the nerdies, they are very often shy. Very often they don't like to talk. Maybe they are very introvert. Guys, this is part of our job as a Scrum Master to make everybody talk. Because if you make decision as a team and you don't ask everybody, what's going to happen? The decisions that are being made will have no buy-in. Right? Don't forget, guys, we want to maximize self-management. This is the antidote to get good solutions in the complex world, right? This is really important, right? So we want to make sure that we all collaborate, that we all work together, even if the decision is not the decision that you wanted, at least you have been heard. So the buy-in is better, right? So, and I mean, using stickies, it's such a simple thing. It's cheap, right? And so what do we do then? So first of all, we start by collecting the ideas. The next step is talk about them, right? We have all this data. This is all data. What we do in the next stage is we want to understand the data. We want to make sure that we generate insights. That's what we want to do. So if you look at data per se doesn't tell you anything. But if you look and you see patterns. So for example, if you see that most of these stickies, it's about bugs. So that should make you think, right? So what we very often do, we take these and we group them. You say, okay, this one is all about bugs. And then we see, oh, we have a couple of others, which is about maybe pressure, right? So you will see patterns emerge. And this is part of the facilitation skills as a Scrum Master, that you help group these things, make things visible so that you see patterns, right? And then you will spend some time to discuss this. So we are still in problem space, but we need to understand the problem, right? Someone mentioned this, right? Take time to understand this, ask questions. This is what we do now. So we take some time, discuss this. And we as Scrum Master, we time box this because we only have so much time, right? So we make sure that we don't spend too much time here and there. So the next step is when you see, and this is one part of the skill of facilitation, is that you see when it's time to move to the next stage, right? So the next stage is that instead of thinking only about problems, now we think about solutions. So here we talk about, again, brainstorming solutions to our problem. So these solutions or the ideas of solutions might have been emerging during these conversations, right? So it's another thing. And these are many, many different techniques that we have here, so that we, as Scrum Master, we might be taking notes on these different solutions that are emerging. Or you can again ask to brainstorm solution ideas. But we are shifting our thinking. We're shifting our thinking from problem to solution now, right? And so in the end, with our solution ideas, what we do now, we can take different approaches, but in the end, we have to refine, we have to decide, we have to prioritize on regarding all these ideas, because we want to make sure that in the end, we need to have an improvement plan, right? And we need to make this valuable, the time that we invest here. We need to make this valuable. And how do you do that? First of all, you need something tangible at the end. Otherwise, it will be just yada yada. It needs to be something, an improvement plan, a tangible improvement plan. And to make this really tangible, we have to make sure that we know who is going to do what by when, right? Make sure that you have that at the end of that session. So, guys, this is the general approach of facilitation. So, facilitation is helping your team not as a boss, but like a servant leader, right? To make the best thinking together, and so that you collaboratively come to the best possible solutions that you can then try out and apply as of the next sprint, next iteration, right? And we use these facilitation techniques. So facilitation then, it's collaboration leadership, right? But it needs structure. And facilitation are all these structuring things that we use, like time boxing. It's very simple, right? Then things like brainstorming, right? Making sure that everybody is speaking, that you have a safe space where you can really collaborate. So creating this space of psychological safety is important, right? It's a different way of working, guys. It really is. And you can feel that when you're first time working in a self-managed team, you need this psychological safety. It's very different from these more directive, kind of work where you are just executing tasks. It's very different. Here, these teams take much more responsibility for their work. And we need that because we need their creativity, right? So it's also we also study in our training course the Agile Manifesto on these principles. And one of the things that might be surprising very much is that Scrum teams they don't just get the requirements they deliver, but they co-create the requirements, right? There is one of the principles that talks about the emergence of the requirements. So we shape as a team, and we want that, right? So this is what we want to maximize here in this approach, right? So it's about facilitation is about making sure it's about uh, having a communication style where people feel more at ease to collaborate. We're talking things like techniques like the fist of five or the Roman vote, making decisions together, right? Prioritize together, refine things together. And here we're talking like many different techniques like things. So maybe just as a closing example, so if you want to brainstorm, there are many different ways that you can actually guide the brainstorming. One approach that I really like a lot is the Starfish approach, right? So if you want people to brainstorm things, right? So here we have it's very general, but you can guide this by using, say, okay, let's brainstorm around these 5 axes, right? So you could ask, for example, what should we do more of, right? So this is a guiding question, right? It's kind of a coaching question. What should we do more of this next sprint? What should we do less, right? So what should we continue doing? What should we do? What should we start doing? Oh, guys, just a sec. Oh. What should we start doing? And what should we stop doing? So this is just a way of helping people to think, right? So let's say if you're talking about improving our reviews, what should we start doing to improve our reviews? What should we stop doing to improve our reviews? What should we do more of to improve our reviews? What should we do less of to improve our reviews? What should we continue doing to improve our reviews? So this is like the guiding question, right? And this is just one format that we can use, right? And there are many different approaches. Well, so and yeah, so we're coming to the end of this webinar, guys. So let me summarize quickly with you guys. So what are we talking about? We're talking about the difference between a Scrum Master and a project manager in terms of facilitation. First of all, the style. We're talking about less cooperation, more collaboration. We're talking about different types of work, more complex work. And that means we want to go from specialization more to collaboration. So we create this one team and we want to focus on the principle of self-management to get more creative solutions, more buy-in, more accountability. So we have the role of the Scrum Master here. So the role of the Scrum Master is to lead that team to become self-managed and more collaborative. One way of doing that, all right? So we have all these different ways that you can do that. One way of doing that is facilitation. Facilitation. So we are Scrum Masters. Instead of us telling what the solution is, we ask the team, what is the best way to solve the problem? So we shift from us solving the problem of helping the team to solve the problem. You can be sure a team of 7 brains, if you use them well, they will be better than you with only 1 brain if you help them use it, right? So, and now how do you do that? So that's really the facilitation. Now, facilitation is helping them to leading the collaboration. So here I'm showing you the general process of facilitation. It's a process, it's a structure, and we need to learn these different tools and approaches, right? Voting, prioritization, brainstorming, all these are different techniques that we as a facilitator use and to help the team to have the best thinking to get good solutions. And that's a summary of our webinar. Guys, do you have any question? We still have 1 minute, so maybe we can take 1 or 2 questions. Any question? Any ideas? Any thoughts? Any feedback is welcome. So, do you still want to be a Scrum Master? Maybe that's a good question. Who wants to be a Scrum Master? Anyone, please tell me. Anyone? Who wants to be a Scrum Master? Who wants to be a facilitator? Anyone? Maybe is there someone already doing that?
I'll say I'm looking at a product ownership role, but I do feel
Okay.
like facilitation skills are helpful regardless of the role. So I like both.
Absolutely. Yes, I really like that thought. And this was a big insight for me, right? So for example, I'm working as a product owner, but at the same time, as I'm the owner of the startup, I'm also the CIO. I
Mhm.
have to make many decisions which are actually something difficult, right? And then I came to understand that coaching or facilitation, these are very basic, important skills if you're working with teams. If you want to really maximizing what the team can deliver. So I'm talking about effectiveness as a team, right? So instead of you telling the guy, "Oh, you do it like this and like that."
Mhm.
This is what we as managers or maybe as leaders, as bosses, we do very often. Oh, do it like that because I say so. But is this really effective as a leader? And I noticed actually that's not so clever at all. How about you ask, right? Don't tell, ask. So you could ask, so yeah, so tell me a little bit, what do you think about your way of doing that? Walk me through it, right? Maybe what do you think? What solution do you see? Right? So taking much more coaching approach. And that's an important learning for me. So basically, these things that a Scrum Master does, the competencies of a Scrum Master, this is valuable for any kind of leader, really. And understanding these tools to maximize the brain, the collective brain, that's really fantastic. There was a question. So what, Raghavendra, I think it was.
Yeah, hi, I'm Raghav.
Hi.
Can a business analyst, instead of moving to a business analyst role, can a person take a Scrum Master role directly? Or
Well,
business analyst is the first step for becoming like a Scrum Master? Is there any hierarchy like that?
no, that first of all, yeah, great question. Great question. So there is no hierarchy here, right? So what you can see is like a path. Where do you want to go, right? As a business
Yeah.
analyst, um, so what I often see is that business analysts makes very often sense to become a product owner. Okay, so that's kind of like a typical path that I see. Because as a business analyst, you understand business. You understand the problem domain. You understand the business that's happening. And you, as a business analyst, what do? We translate things, needs to specifications for teams and stuff like that, right? It's so you're really good at analyzing, you're really good at specifying this kind of stuff. You're really good at talking, understanding problems. So this is a part of what a product owner does, right? It's not actually the most important one, but it's really good for you to become a product owner. As a product owner, you need more than that. You need leadership understanding. You need to work on that. But that's very often a natural progression. Okay. So
Yeah.
how do I see this with a Scrum Master? The Scrum Master role, it's a people person role. Your focus is people. It sounds maybe strange, right? But your role is to help the team on that path here. It's your role to make sure that this team over time becomes really this absolutely great team. That's your role, right? So
Okay.
as a business analyst, you're focusing on product. So I see this more as a product owner role for you. And that's it. But it doesn't matter. If you see this is something for you, why not? Right? But you need to understand your passion. What's it that what moves you? Is it the product that moves you? Right? Or is it really team success that moves you? If that's the case, Scrum Master role is definitely great, right? Make
Yeah,
sense?
okay. Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. So maybe we can take one last question, then we call it a day. What do you think?
Krishna here, have one
Yes,
question.
please,
So
please.
often in small organizations, a person who is a product owner will also be a business analyst most of the times. That's my case, but at least that's what I'm doing. Where sometimes I would be asked to take the role of Scrum Master as well. It's quite difficult to
Yes.
manage three. I am the one who will be questioning myself and answering as well most of the times. So how do we deal with such circumstances?
Yes. So, okay. So, very good question. And this is something that I see very often happening. So, we understand these are different things. This is really important, right? When we help facilitation, we might have a conflict. Imagine now you are in a retrospective and you want to participate in actually talking about problems, right? And that's what we want, right? I want to talk about the problem. Or maybe you want to talk about the product. I want this and that. And that's something that you should, as product owner, you should do that. But then again, if you facilitate at the same time, you have a problem. Because as a facilitator, you need to be neutral, right? Because it's very easy if we get carried away that we want to kind of steer the conversation. Maybe we want to manipulate, right? We want to get our ideas out. And that's difficult to do at the same time, right? It's at least understand that this is difficult because we might be biased as a facilitator, as a Scrum Master. We need to be neutral, right? So that's being said. So the thing is, it's difficult. I don't know if that really works well. At the same time, guys, if you really understand, so I recommend product owners to really understand the work of the Scrum Master, understand facilitation, understand coaching. Not necessarily that you are going to do that, but we need to understand what everyone needs to do, what's your responsibilities, and so. I still think it is better that you also do that than nobody doing it. It's better to be like a not so good Scrum Master than no Scrum Master at all, right? So
Yeah.
I understand the conflict, understand your bias, but then just do it. I mean, if you don't have any Scrum Master at all, someone needs to do this. Someone needs to help the people think, right? So you might not be as effective as a dedicated Scrum Master, but still better than not. That's my very practical advice, right? Happens sometimes in our teams, right? So if we don't have a dedicated Scrum Master, sometimes a developer takes a little bit of his time, her time to do that because you need to prepare retrospective. You need to help people and stuff. And sometimes imagine you can have like conflicts in your team. And that is really difficult, right? Maybe you are also part of the problem. So very often product owners, we are part of the problem. Sometimes we don't do a good work. We need to be able to understand and being criticized too, right? Because we are not the bosses of the team, right? So that makes it difficult. That's only things, right? But by all means, if you don't have someone, do it. It's still better than not. Right? Makes sense, Krishna?
Pretty much. Thank you. Thank you for response.
Okay, guys. So let's call it a day. So thank you much for your participation and your questions. And I hope to see you maybe someday in one of my training courses here at Simply Access. All right, guys.
Thank you.
All the
Thank
best
you.
to you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you.